ask for prayer for my entire family as we go through an event that we didn't expect to go through. In your name, Lord, tonight we pray.
And if you would please indulge and remain standing. Hold on one second. Okay, let me see. Is this any better? Wonderful. Very well. I'd like us to keep in our minds and in our memory Father Blanc, who passed away recently. He was born in Spain in 1926, ordained in Barcelona in 1951. He served the Holy Family Church in Chimayo from 1975 to 1989, was transferred to Albuquerque Sacred Heart Parish in 1989, all the way serving to 1995. He was then transferred back to northern New Mexico to lead parishioners at the Santa Cruz de la Cañada for 20 years. He spent the last years of his life back at Holy Family Church, beginning once again in 2015 until his recent passing. His favorite saying was, "Although I have served in Spain and Italy, I've been happiest serving in New Mexico." Our thoughts and prayers for Father Blanc. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Very well. We will begin this meeting with our roll call and determination of quorum.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
Present.
Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Honored to be here.
Councillor Justin Salazar Torres.
Present.
Councillor John Ramon Vigil. Councillor Manuel J. Martinez.
Present.
Councillor John L. Ritchie.
Present.
Councillor Denise D. Benavides.
Present.
Councillor Dorothy D. D. Valdez.
Present.
Mayor Javier E. Sanchez.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Very well. We'll now move on to the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, for
I would-
consideration, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, sir. I would just like to make an amendment. If the council is willing to, on the city council agenda, there's nothing for city councilor comments. I would just like to see if we could add that amendment.
Second.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second for the amendment. Is there any discussion?
Point of order, sir. You had a motion and a second on the first one before the amendment came. So the maker of the motion and the second of the motion would have to approve the amendment.
I don't think that's correct. They can do a friendly adjustment, or
Did
we
he
can make
agree?
an amendment.
Did he agree?
So I'm good with that.
Okay, so we
I was
have
about to state that.
friendly amendment. The maker of the motion is okay with that. How about the second?
Sure.
All right, very good. So we no longer have to vote on the amendment itself. Any other council comment or discussion? Okay, very well. Seeing none, we have a motion for approval of the agenda with the addition of councilor comments and a second. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, very well. We can now move on to councilor comments. And I hope that that includes the mayor as well. And in fact, what I'd like to do is just give a brief description about what brings us here today. So before we begin, I'd just like to explain the reason behind today's special city council meeting. At the last regularly scheduled city council meeting on June 22nd, 2021, we heard several items for council consideration and action that could not be voted on. In particular, there were 5 resolutions and 1 hearing. By ordinance, the city council can only hear resolutions and hold hearings when a full majority of the city council is present. A full majority consists of at least 5 councilors. During roll call, it was established that we did in fact have a majority of the council present, with 6 councilors in attendance and 2 councilors absent. Of those councilors that were absent, 1 was attending to urgent family matters and the other was working. After the first item on the agenda was heard and voted on by the 6 present councilors, 2 councilors left the meeting. By leaving the meeting, the council no longer had a majority of the full body, and therefore council was not legally able to conduct city business. All 4 except one of the items on that agenda, which was for co-sponsorship that did not require a full body quorum. Several of the items for consideration and action are extremely time sensitive, including resolution 2021-26 that extends our ability to use state funds on Calle Miramontes. That resolution is due to, excuse me, that resolution is due to the state by June 30th, which is tomorrow. Also time sensitive was the hearing for a loan augmentation that allows the city to begin work on the State Road 76 wastewater line extension. Because of notice requirements tied to ordinances, unfortunately, that item cannot be brought forth today. Instead, that particular hearing will have to wait until the end of July. Both of these and other resolutions, including $124,000 to help improve North McCurdy Road and $74,000 to bring sidewalks to East Fairview, affect thousands of Espanola citizens and passersby. It was critical, therefore, that we brought these items for action today, and that is why we called for this special meeting. So for councillor comments, Councillor Justin Salazar Torres.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. I just want to apologize to this governing body as well as to my constituents for my absence the last two city council meetings. A few tasks had come up at work and I was unable to make it. I just wanted to give my apologies. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Manny Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. The councilors also know that I just want to make it transparent that I did send a letter to, or an email to all the councilors, including the city manager, stating my feelings about what had happened on that particular meeting. It was upsetting to know that in not just the resolutions that we're having to vote on today, but also State 76, how much it's going to be delayed now because of this. This has been going on project for so long now, and we were so close to getting it finally there, shovel ready, get it done, and here we have to wait again. And you know, as counselors, yes, we're going to miss a meeting here and there. Again, life happens, family happens, you get ill, whatever it might be, conflicting scheduling, whatever it might be, but there are times we're going to miss meetings, and that's going to happen. And from time to time, that's going to happen to all of us. And there's going to be times, in the letter I stated that there's going to be also times where in the meeting, a family emergency might happen, or you might end up getting sick while you're sitting here and you're going to have to leave. And that's understandable. I mean, no one expects you to stay through a meeting when something like that might happen, but there's no excuse because you may not agree upon the way a vote goes on any particular item to leave the meeting and put the resolutions or ordinances into a case where they can't get approved or disapproved, whichever it might be at that moment, and especially when it's time sensitive. And it's very hard, I think, for when you can see the faces of our employees. They try so hard to get all their work done, to get it done on a timely manner, to make sure it gets put on our agenda so that it's done. And then when something like that happens, you know, it doesn't show that we appreciate all the hard work that they do when we do something like that. And it's really disarming for me to know that that has happened. And I mean, as a council, we need to really work hard. I mean, granted, there's going to be times where we're going to agree, we're going to disagree, some days it's going to be some meetings that everything's going to go great, and some meetings it's not. But we're all adults here, and we have to learn to deal with the times that something that we really want to pass doesn't pass, and we just move on to the next item. That's our job. That's our job as a city councilor, to look at each item and continue on and not get mad, not get upset, whatever it might be, and get up and just leave. And I hope that is the last time that happens with this governing body, so that we don't have to have a special meeting to approve of something that should have been approved in the previous meeting, sir. And I just wanted to state that that's the way I felt. Also, you know, that evening, a window was broken on our city door, and I don't know if the counselor that left at that area witnessed it, saw it, or heard it, but nothing was reported. And I think that if they did see it, that's also alarming to know that that happened, because I think if any of us were at any, especially at any city property, whether you're at a baseball game, you're at the gym, you're at Lucero Center, you're at the library, and you witness somebody break something on purpose, I think it's our duty to say, you know, to say something, speak up. So I just want to express my feelings to that, sir. But also on another note, thank you for recognizing Father Jose Maria Blanc. He was a inspiring priest and inspiring man. Lots of wisdom with that man. I'll never forget that priest. Great guy. And I don't know a lot of people may know him, but I don't know if a lot of people they know that he was a great piano player because he always sang in mass. But what they may not know is that Father Blanc was a composer, and he also composed some of the music for the original Godfather movie. When it came out, a friend of his was actually a director. I don't know if he was the music director or one of the screen directors, but he asked him to compose some of the music back in Spain, and he did. And he never actually got credit for it because he's not allowed to as a priest, but he did write some of the music for the original Godfather movie. So I think that's something a lot of people should know. I mean, he was a great man. So thank you for honoring him tonight and remembering him, sir.
Thank you, councilors. All right, very well. Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So that everybody understands why. And the county is not even attended the meeting, has not been that we have tabled the issue for people to turn to the I made a commitment that I would get here for that, and the rest of it I didn't understand that the going to be breaking the majority plan. Because before I left the building, I heard the attorney saying that we were still okay, and I felt like you guys were going to continue. So I would have probably attended for the next maybe 15, 20 minutes if I would have felt I had to. Because for that, I really had communicated that to me. As far as reaching the window or anything like that, I never signed to, I had to inside, but I never heard of signing, and I don't think that I'm on side because I met up to him outside and I asked him what the gentleman was talking about when he walked out. And he stated a couple of things to me, but he never said anything that violence or anything. The gentleman did refer to us before he left. He stated that he was counsel on the issue. I knew that after he set me up, I hadn't really anything with my right, so there was never any contact either of any kind. Before I left, I issued a text to Councilor Valdez telling me that I was sorry I had to leave. I told her I respect the process and that I wasn't mad. I didn't leave mad. I was disappointed with the way that we handled here. I was disappointed with the but in all reality, I mean, he basically left a senior citizen homeless that night. So of course I was upset. Considering my absences and my attendance here, I think I have the best attendance of any council in this room. I was challenging you to say that I don't. I rarely miss a meeting. We've got in 9 years. I missed one because of council. And it's very rare that I miss. And I just feel like, sometimes it's hard to believe that there's no conspiracy, there's no collusion going on. But we don't believe everything we see. Sometimes we have other situations that come before this responsibility.
Thank you, Councilor. Do we have any other? Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to speak in reference to, what's been said already. Sometimes certain governing body members come in tardy for various reasons. Maybe they're backed up in traffic. Maybe, they have to run specific errands before coming to the meeting or something going on. And also absent for various reasons at all when they cannot make it in. So that happens every once in a while. And again, I think as Councilor Manny Martinez mentioned, it happens to each one of us. But some concerns that I have that actually has been going on for a while and has actually been building up is when there's certain specific counselors that walk in late, almost all the time. We all know we have a 6 o'clock meeting. So I think everybody should come here before 6, put their computers up, be prepared so we could promptly start at 6 o'clock. First of all, I want to state this is not staff. This is not the problems of staff are starting this meeting late. I've been getting complaints from certain constituents that have been, wanting to log into the meetings and also listening to the radio. And our meetings are constantly late. And again, this is not staff's fault, and this is not the mayor's fault. But the mayor has been courteous to wait for these counselors. This is an inconvenience to our staff members who work all day long, and then they still have to, stay for a council meeting and then have to wait for them to conveniently come in late often just so they could stay later. This is also to our general public, to the rest of the governing body members. It's a slap in the face. For a job, if somebody has to be at work on time at 6 o'clock, it should be every effort to be at work at 6 o'clock. Or else the progressive disciplinary process starts. So again, that should not be happening. I think everybody should be able to come in and be started for 6 o'clock so we could promptly start, get our business done, and do what we need to do. To me, I take time very personal. That's something very precious to me. Once it's taken away, you can never get it back. So with that said, certain individuals on this governing body that inconsiderately do this, I think it's a slap to everybody's face. As mentioned, to our staff, to our general public, to the rest of the governing body, and so on. So with that said, I think this needs to stop, and it's been getting worse during the time for COVID when we were on Zoom, and even now. I think we should all be here at 6, if not at least a courtesy message. If you want to message other counselors, that's fine, but message the mayor. The mayor's the one that runs the meeting, so the mayor knows what's going on. Also, as mentioned, the last meeting, we had a very contentious public hearing. And at that time, as soon as that public hearing was over, there were 2 specific counselors that voted, opposite of the majority. At the very same time, they both got up and walked out immediately. And to me, it appeared like it was with a lot of emotion. So shortly after that, apparently there is broken glass on the door, walking out of the city council chambers, going to the outside. And it appears that maybe 1, maybe 2 counselors observed this, and again, did not report it. If it did happen, I think it needs to be reported. There's no reason why it shouldn't. If it didn't happen, well, then so be it. But I think this is crucial because each member of this governing body, our job is to protect all assets and all liabilities of the city. Always protect the city. City comes first, no matter what, especially being on city property. We got to protect our city. That's what our oath is. Above anything and everybody. Also, another issue that I've personally been seeing is the committee process. The same thing is happening in the committee process where certain specific counselors are late. We're having to wait on these counselors. Last week, we had a Public Works Committee meeting. I'm the chair of this committee. A specific counselor walked in probably about 6:07, conveniently. We were doing our business, and then it was about 10 till 7. And that counselor lets me know to hurry up my action items and my action business because he needs to leave promptly at 7. That shouldn't happen. We got to finish our business, period. If he would have left prior to that, we would have lost the quorum. So promptly at 7, you know what? We lost our quorum. So we had to officially adjourn the meeting. Another counselor and myself stayed back and we were able to hear staff reports and staff comments, which is very crucial because that keeps the governing body up to date of the departments within the committee of exactly what's going on. That's our opportunity to ask questions and for them to update us. And once again, this is an inconvenience I personally feel it's very rude to our staff members who work so hard to prepare all this information, to get everything this governing body needs, to our general public, to our governing body, and so on. Also, another thing I've noticed through the committee process and through our city council governing process, the day of or the day before, there's quorum checks. Some certain councilors do not even respond. They don't have the courtesy to send a quick text, yes. In other words, I'll be there, or to answer the phone or so on. I think it's very crucial for preparation, again, for preparation, and maybe we have guests before us, so they could at least know to prepare. If they're not going to be here, we may not have a quorum. Common courtesy. If you're planning to be absent, any of us are planning to be absent, give the mayor and the city clerk and whatever councilor you wish a common courtesy to say that you're going to be out. And then at least this gives the mayor the opportunity to formally excuse the councilor. I've experienced this through my 17+ year career, and I think it's only right. It's only good, ethical business practices. And talking about conspiracy and collusion, I take that as a personal insult, a personal threat. And I don't know what this councilor is talking about, a conspiracy, collusion. If there's any kind of conspiracy or collusion, maybe it's the two councilors involved because they're the ones calling it. So maybe, is there something that they want to talk about or afraid to talk about? That really concerns me. And as things have been happening, you know, it's on and on and on. I feel these two councilors need to be censored at the very least. At the very least. And I think this governing body needs to hear it as well. And as far as the broken glass, I would strongly encourage our police department. I do not know what's going on right now, but I would strongly encourage our police department to investigate this. If they need to send it to an outside agency, whatever they got to do, but I feel this needs to be investigated. So again, this goes back to common courtesy for each other, common courtesy for our staff members, common courtesy for our general public who voted us into office. These are common business practices that we practice in our professional lives with our families every single day. So it's not too hard to do this in a city council meeting. That's all I have for now. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the time, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilor Denise Benavides.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not sure what happened last Tuesday, other than, you know, just the tidbits that I've heard. I unfortunately did have a family emergency. I spoke to Mayor very early that morning when everything happened. However, I mean, I do agree with my fellow councilors that respect is a big thing. We need to respect each other and we need to respect the process and the oath that we took. I think that, you know, as city councilors, we have an obligation to our constituents. And we also have an obligation, in my opinion, to the staff of the city that works really hard to put agendas together and documentation together. I always make it a point to respond to any emails as quickly as I can. I do much better with text, so I think staff knows, you know, text is better for me. I definitely respond to those. If there's any kind of an issue, I know that Pro Temp Dennis Tim was talking about our Public Works meeting last week. I also did have portion of my emergency started on that particular meeting, but I did call Mayor Pro Temp and say, you know, do we have a quorum? If not, I will be there, and I was here. And I agree that, you know, the committee is short. If we're short a person, you know, it really halts business. And it's something that needs to not happen. I think that business as usual for us being counselors is something that we need to take. Think about, you know, before we call in, before we come late, if we're going to be late, I think it's common courtesy to call mayor. We can't get a hold of the mayor, get a hold of somebody on council, let them know. You know, it's just mutual respect for each other and for the process. I think if we can't do that, then maybe we need to think about what we're doing here and go forward. And the other thing I wanted to mention tonight is that we do have finance committee shortly after council. And I just wanted to invite all my fellow councilors, if you'd like to stay, please do so. We do have a presentation from a firm, and I'd like to recognize Deputy Treasurer for being here tonight. He's in the audience out there. He'll be here to assist with any questions that anybody may have for that particular presentation. I think that it's something important for the city. It's an opportunity for us that I think will work out well. So anybody who'd like to stay, please feel free to do so. I understand, if others have other obligations, but I just wanted to mention that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Very well. Moving on, I'd just like to say one final comment, and that's that regardless of perhaps some of the issues that we have, and regardless of some of the energy that is present, what I would like to say is that we can now expend that negative energy and allow it to help us turn it into something positive. And quite frankly, that's why we're all here today. We're all here to help the citizens of the city of Espanola. And there were many resolutions, hearings, and issues that we need to hear. And I'd like to commend all the councilors here today for coming to take care of that business for the people of Espanola. Thank you to the staff for coming yet again and hearing these resolutions. More importantly, all of the councilors that are here not just for the constituents in their districts, but they're here for constituents throughout the entire city. They're here to help those in District 2, Calle Miramontes, in particular in District 4 for McCurdy, and all of the other districts throughout the city that can use these funds and will use them. So we just want to say thank you for coming today, for perhaps allowing us to do a reboot and a reset, respect one another, recognize that should someone be tardy or late because life happens, to please let me know as the chair of this meeting. I think it's the right thing to do, and I'd appreciate that common respect. And I will do everything I can to ensure that I give you the same respect. So councilors, thank you so much for coming today, and we'll quickly move along to the next item, which is items proposed for council consideration, discussion items. We have before us Roman numeral 5, letter A, resolution 2021-24, a resolution to demonstrate participation in local government road fund program administered by New Mexico Department of Transportation for ongoing North McCurdy Road rehabilitation award, $124,444. We have Ms. Diane Hawkes.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body. I'm here this evening respectfully requesting approval of Resolution 2021-24. This resolution concurs our participation, if you will, in the local government road fund and accepts this award of $75,833.
I'm sorry, Ms. Hawkes. It's actually A, which is the McCurdy Road rehabilitation at $124,444.
I have them backwards. Okay, so then this award, again, respectfully requesting approval, is for the participation of the municipal arterial program, the MAP program. This award will provide $124,444.
It is not the MAP program.
North McCurdy Road rehabilitation.
21-24.
Yes.
So the dollar amounts are,
This is for North McCurdy Road.
yes. So 2021-24, this resolution is for the award in the amount of $75,833. So I
That is
think it's
different
just
from
the-
what we have on the agenda.
On the agenda, you're correct.
Okay, so,
So it should be the 75.
all right, I see that under A, we have resolution 2021-24,
Correct.
and that is the $75,833 to be funded in proportional share by the parties hereto as follows. Okay. You can continue with that change for legal purposes on the agenda. The number is incorrect.
So we're changing resolution 2124 to what's advertised as 2125.
That's the amount.
Yes.
Was it just the amount?
It's just the dollar amount.
It's the whole thing, right? It's the mapping, correct? 2124.
Yes,
Okay, so we have it on our packet as 2125.
on the agenda, just here.
Okay, so it is still for McCurdy Road. It is
No.
2021-24 but the dollar amount is
No.
for 75,833, as is evidenced by the resolution written itself, where it says
So
at
the
the bottom, now
resolution-
therefore be it resolved by the city of Espanola to enter into cooperative agreement project control number L500439 with the New Mexico Department of Transportation for LGRF project for year 2021-2022 for the plan and design of various city roads, specifically for the continuation of the rehabilitation of McCurdy Road within the city of Espanola in Rio Arriba, New Mexico.
So it's only the amount that's incorrect.
That is correct.
Correct.
That is
So it's
correct.
75,833 instead of
$833.
124,
Correct.
444.
That is correct.
Okay. Move to approve, sir.
Second.
We have a motion from Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez with a second from Councillor Manny Martinez. And that is for resolution 2021-24 North McCurdy Road in the amount of $75,833. For councillor comments? Councillor Justin Salazar Torres.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Just a question, this may be for the Streets Department, but what parts of North McCurdy now? Because I know they did some patchwork already. So is this for the other checkered board side of things
This is to continue that exact work.
to continue? Okay, great. Thank you. It's exciting.
Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez.
That's the same question that I had. I just wondered how far back this way. Do you have any idea?
I do not have the specifics. Those I would defer to Elijah if he was here, but he's the coordinator on that.
I
But I
just
do
have
know
to
it is
s-
part of that project.
I just have to say thank you, Diane, for your hard work in this situation and also for Streets Department. And thank you to the State Highway Department so far for the work that they've already done. It's really been an improvement for that area, and we appreciate that. And it's looking a lot better than it had been in a long, long time. So adding 75,000, 76,000 to this is excellent. Thank you again.
Of course.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other councillor comments or questions? All right, seeing none, we will take a roll call vote with a motion on the floor from Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez for adoption with a second from Councillor Manny Martinez and also Councillor Justin Salazar Torres.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor?
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
Absolutely in favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
In favor?
Counselor Denise D. Benavides. For the motion. Counselor Dorothy D. Valdez. In favor. Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
For the motion.
Motion carries.
Very well. We'll go on to the next resolution, 2021-25, a resolution to demonstrate participation in local government road fund program and is administered by New Mexico Department of Transportation Municipal Arterial Program MAP Award with the dollar amount to be corrected to $124,444. Ms. Diane Hawkes.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body. I stand here requesting approval of Resolution 2021-25. This resolution will allow us to participate in the local government road fund and will provide $124,444 for a project that will take place on Fairview Extension to add sidewalks and do other improvements.
Motion to approve, sir?
Second.
Very well. We have a motion for approval from Councillor Manny Martinez with a second from Councillor Justin Salazar Torres. For councillor comments or questions.
The amount is 124,444, Mayor?
That is correct.
Do we have any idea what part of Fairview Way?
From the stop
Sidewalk?
sign headed towards the high school for that area.
Thank you. Again, Diane, thank you.
Seeing no other further councillor comments, can we take a roll call vote? We have a motion for approval from Councillor Manny Martinez with a second from Councillor Justin Salazar Torres.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion.
Counselor Dorothy D. Valdez. In favor. Counselor Denise D. Benavides. In favor. Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
In favor?
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
In favor of the motion.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Also in favor?
Motion carries.
Very well. We'll now go on to letter C, Resolution 2021-26, a resolution to extend New Mexico Department of Transportation funding for Camino Miramontes. Ms. Hawkes.
Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, I present before you Resolution 2021-26. This resolution would allow us to request a contract extension of time for 1 year through NMDOT. I've already provided a letter and they've already provided an amendment to the contract. This resolution is the last of the formality to receive the extension.
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Councillor Justin Salazar Torres with a second from Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar. I have a quick question. Could you just explain a little bit, go into detail about the engineering that this is providing and why we need the extension?
Yes, sir. So as we began the design process, we got through and we reached a point in the design process where drainage has become a serious issue. Because of that, we ran into several hiccups, hence the deadline approached. There is just a little bit of money left, but I just want to take every action, every step, if you would, to ensure that we don't lose any of it.
Very well. Thank you. Councillor comments, Councillor Justin Salazar Torres.
Thank you, Mayor. A quick question, and this may be for Mr. Hubler, but in the design of, I've had constituents from Camino Miramontes asking when the heck are they going to see some sort of progress, when they see some sort of action. Has Del Norte been involved, being that they're, trying to do a sublocation there in these conversations to assist with that road and so forth?
Councilor Salazar Torres, the drainage issues that we're having are at the far end of the subdivision, so they're not impacted by Del Norte's development. Yeah, they're where the outfall has historically gone on to the tribal lands adjacent. That's what dealing with that, making that a better process is where we're currently stalled.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Manny Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. This may also be for Mr. Hubler. Sorry, sir. I should have waited till you sat down. Just a quick question on that construction. Is it going to affect the construction that's going on right now for the bank, the credit union that's going in that area, or vice versa?
So we're still in the design phase for the reconstruction. We have to figure out how to deal with all the water that flows towards the river. It's extremely likely that the bank will be completed, probably even before we complete the design phase, but definitely before we get to the construction phase.
Thank you.
Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. So for clarification, this drainage issue is the last part of the whole design phase. And then from that point, we're going to be looking for funding on working on this?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
Thank you, Mayor. This is for Mr. Hubler and Ms. Hawkes. Good job.
Thank you.
Very well. All right, seeing no other councillor comments, we can take a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor?
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
In favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
In favor?
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor.
Counselor Dorothy D. Valdez. For the motion. Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
For the motion.
Motion carries.
Very well. We'll go on to letter D, Resolution 2021-27, a resolution authorizing the removal of $174,981.80 of uncollectible utility account amounts from accounts receivable to bad debt on the general ledger account. Ms. Hawkes.
Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body, I'm here requesting approval of Resolution 2021-27. This resolution authorizes us to remove $174,981.81 of uncollectible utility accounts. The accounts listed as our packet material have exceeded the statute of limitations and we're no longer able to collect. So our intent is to take these off the accounts receivable and move them to bad debt. And if I can add, the last time this was done was in 2007.
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
We have a motion from Councillor Justin Salazar Torres with a second from Councillor Peggy Sue Martinez. For councillor discussion, Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
Thank you, Mayor. Diane, as we discussed prior meetings, I think this is a very tough pill to swallow, especially after, so many years. But at the same time, with all these years, that have passed, and thank you guys for the hard work, in compiling the collection of all this, information. But at least this brings us to a point now where we could be able to move forward, just as far as, checks and balances, checking everything that we need to, and just ensuring that where we need to go. So thank you guys for going back and doing all that, because I know it was no easy task, and I know you got a lot of help with that as well, and
Yes,
it's compelling. So
absolutely.
just want to thank you guys.
Thank you.
For a comment and question from the Finance Chair Committee, from the Finance Committee Chair, Ms. Benavides.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, when I saw that list, I was shocked, wasn't I?
Yeah,
And I
for
had
sure.
several questions, one of them being that there were several people on that list that were recognizable names, local
Correct.
names, local employees, and I was shocked. And I also asked the question during that meeting and looking at the list, if those people were also awarded new accounts with the city, and the answer was yes. So, that was also another shocker to me, but we gotta do what we gotta do at this point. Some of those are really old. I know you guys worked hard on that, Diana, so I thank you for that. But I think, going forward, I don't think it'll happen with you at the helm, right? But yeah, it was definitely a shock to see that list, and hopefully we'll keep up with it so that we don't have to go through this again, right? Thank you,
Exactly.
Diana.
Thank you.
We'll go next to Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez, then Counselor Richie, and then Counselor Manny Martinez.
Could you give me a average amount of each account? Like what is each account worth? What's the high and the low and the average?
So based on the packet material, I mean, there's some accounts right on the first page. There's one that owes $2,667, and that's for a hotel group that's no longer in existence, if you will. There are some balances as small as 4 cents, but because it's 4 cents, it's still on the books.
I had a lot of heartburn with this myself, but it stays in our books, right? It's in our record.
Yes,
So if somebody comes back and says, I want to reconnect my water, and they type in that name, that bad debt still arises, even though you're taking it off the books. We still have it in our records, correct?
yes, ma'am.
So if somebody tried to reconnect under the same name, it would be looked at
Pulled up.
and not allowed until that bill is paid, correct?
Absolutely.
So the only thing that I can say that I think the council needs to consider, that we need to really be careful about how high we let these accounts get. I really feel like the higher the account gets, the less chance that it's going to get paid down. So I really feel that we should look at a quicker warning and a quicker disconnect.
I concur with you, Counselor, absolutely. And that's what this process will establish. We're trying to establish the beginning of a good, solid collection process that we can move forward with and be on top of, with accounts that are legitimately collectible.
And the other thing, also making it more affordable to get connected, I think is something that we also need to work on. So just those two concerns. Thank you, Ms. Diane.
Thank you.
For a quick clarification, I apologize, Counselor Benavides.
Just Diana, for quick clarification. So if the statute of limitations has run out and somebody comes in new, and you could still see that debt at that point, I was under the understanding it was not collectible.
No, we can still,
You can
we
still.
can still.
So some of those that were on the list already had new accounts. So we just didn't collect them at the time that we opened the new account?
Yes. So what could possibly happen now is once we get this approved, if we don't move it to moot debt, we can, to bad debt, we can also apply it to their current account, because we do that as well.
Oh, I like that idea, because there were several there with open accounts that we can now add those to
Yes.
that I recognized on the list. Okay, thank you.
Counselor Richie.
Thank you, Mayor. What have we had in place to prevent this again? What's our policy, and what are we, or have we finalized the policy?
We haven't actually finalized anything, Counselor, but we do have a new staff person, Mr. Jesus Chavez, and that will be his specific role. He was hired as a collection specialist.
Are we able to go back? Are you, when you say collection on any current or new delinquencies we have, but since we're able to, these are still on the books. I mean, we've taken them off. I don't know how you take them off, but they're still there. Can we go back at all and collect any of, especially the large ones, or any of these? Can we go back?
I would imagine so, but the issue, as I mentioned, for instance, this huge balance of $2,600, that's a hotel corporation that's not in existence anymore. So with respect to that, we don't have anybody to go after. Now, in the case of an individual, if they choose, say, if they come to apply for another account and this comes up, then we would actually have them address this before we allow them to open up the new account.
And I also hope we corrected, I saw in there was a business that was listed like, I know 2 times for sure, there was accounts. I hope that doesn't happen again. And again, I hope that we have more control on the delinquencies and we can be more, be on it quicker.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
Counselor Manny Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. And actually, Councilor Benavides kind of asked the question I was going to ask, which was, if there are accounts that have active accounts, why we're not sending those balances to, or transferring those balances to their active accounts. Now, you stated that there is some, like, for instance, this hotel that's no longer in business. I just mentioned, would we be able to put a lien on such properties, especially if they're up for sale, so that we can collect that revenue during that time?
Counselor Martinez, I believe we would have had to have placed that lien during the period of collectability. Once that statute of limitations has expired, we've basically lost our right to the money.
Okay.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres.
Well, since we're all stealing each other's thunder here. Counselor Manny Martinez, that's what I was going to ask is, the property itself, put a lien on it and so forth. But should say that property itself, whatever hotel it may be, sell, can then we place a lien afterwards on it for whoever comes in to reconnect?
I don't think so because it's not their liability.
Because, okay, just thank you.
Counselor Didi Valdez.
Has the city ever attempted to work with any credit bureau to try to collect the debts?
I know years past, Counselor Valdez, they did way back. And then very recently, we tried to utilize a collection agency, and Jessica will concur that was unsuccessful from the word-go.
All right, very well. I think we've exhausted all of those questions. We have a motion on the floor, and I forgot who made that motion. Counselor Justin Salazar Torres with a second from Counselor Manny Martinez. Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez. Can we take a roll call vote, please, on resolution 2021-27?
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
In favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
In favor?
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
In favor.
Counselor Dorothy D. Valdez,
For the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar.
For the motion.
Motion carries.
Very well. We'll now go on to letter E, resolution 2021-28, budget adjustment resolution, increasing revenues, expenditures, transfers, and various funds for fiscal year 2021. Ms. Ortiz?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the governing body. I come before you tonight to respectfully request approval of Resolution 2021-28, a resolution increasing revenues, expenditures, and transfers in the following funds. So we have Fund 112, which is the ODWI. We are requesting an increase of $10,753. Fund 117 is the Click It or Ticket. We are increasing revenues and expenditures by $2,139. Fund 122 is the STEP program. We are requesting an increase of $2,376 for revenues and expenditures. And these are the safer grants provided to the PD by New Mexico DOT. And these do cross federal fiscal years. So these grants are on a federal fiscal year running from October 1st to September 30th. So we just want to ensure that we budget both amounts correctly, or all amounts correctly, for the the crossover of fiscal years. We also have Fund 126, which is the HIDA program. We are requesting an increase of 25,000 revenues and expenditures for carryover. We also have Fund 405, which is our debt service account, increasing transfers in the amount of 145,178. This is the transfer to cover the expense for the USDA loan that we recently paid off for the Convento. And then we have Fund 412, which is another debt service fund. This is the refinance fee for the NMAD loan that we refinanced from a 2% to 0% interest for the remainder of the loan. And then we have Fund 503, which is the general fund infrastructure GRT. We are requesting an increase of transfers of $131,341. And I stand for any questions.
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
I have a motion from Counselor Justin Salazar Torres and a second from Counselor Manny Martinez. For Counselor questions, Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jessica. So under the first four, you have them under revenue and expenditures. Could you just touch base a little bit why you mentioned both sides of receiving it and you have it under expenditure too?
Yes, so for the revenues and expenditures, we want to increase that because as we expend, these are reimbursable accounts. So we will be collecting the revenues to offset. So we want to have budget in both the revenues and expenditures.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very well. Do we have any other Counselor comments or questions? Counselor Denise Benavides.
No questions, Mayor. Thank you.
My apologies. All right, very well. We have a motion from Counselor Justin Salazar Torres with a second from Counselor Manny Martinez. Can we take a roll call vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion.
Counselor Dorothy D.D. Valdez,
For the motion.
Counselor Denise D. Benavides,
For the motion.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
For the motion.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
For the motion.
Counselor John L. Ritchie,
In favor.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
Also in favor?
motion carries.
Very well. Thank you very much, Ms. Ortiz. We appreciate it. Counselors, we have reached the end of our agenda. We thank you so much for your attendance today. It is now 6:57. I hereby adjourn this meeting.
Have a good night. Yes, please.
Oh, God, mine's probably full to the rim. Me too. I haven't checked it in 2 years. My box is probably.
The note. The one that said, "Are you, this is a lullaby?" She took it. She took it. I have no idea. Yeah.
Is this your meeting too?
Yeah.
And then I will see you later, sir.
Yeah.
But I guess I better check my mailbox.
I know, me too. I forget. I keep
Oh,
forgetting too. so-
mail is crazy. I let it go.
Mine's muted. Yours? Mine's muted. Is Mayor's? It's got to be Mayor. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. It's 7:09, and I officially call this meeting to order. We've got some feedback.
I think we're okay now.
Are we okay now? Again, thank you, everyone, for your patience. We had a few technical difficulties that we worked out. Okay, one more time. Here we go. It's officially 7:09, and I hereby call this meeting to order. Can we have a call to order, please? Can we have roll call?
You sure can. Excuse me. Counselor or Chair Denise Benavides,
Present.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
Present.
Counselor John Ricci,
Present.
Counselor John Ramon Vihil, absent. We have a quorum,
Thank you, Ms. Ursula.
of course.
Let's move to approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve, ma'am.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Justin Salazar Torres and a second from Counselor John Ritchie. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
In favor.
Counselor John Ricci,
In favor.
and Chair Denise Benavides.
In favor. Thank you.
Motion passes.
Next item, public comments. Do we have anybody for public comments, either on Zoom or in chamber?
No, ma'am.
What? Thank you so much. Next item, committee member comments. Do we have any committee member comments tonight?
No, ma'am.
Counselor Ritchie, any comments tonight? No comments tonight. All right, we're moving.
Well, sir, no, that's, we're still in order. We're still fine. The way I see it here on the agenda.
Next items is matter from the chair. I don't have anything tonight for discussion. So we'll move right on to approval of the minutes. Let's go item F, Finance Committee minutes, December 15th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve, ma'am.
Second.
Motion from Counselor Justin Salazar Torres and a second from Counselor Don Ritchie. Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Counselor, excuse me, Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
In favor.
Chair Denise Benavides,
In favor?
Counselor John Ricci.
In favor.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item G, Finance Committee meeting minutes, February 22nd, 2021. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve, ma'am.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Justin Salazar Torres, second by Counselor John Ritchie. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
In favor.
Counselor or Chair Denise Benavides,
In favor?
Counselor John Ricci.
In favor.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next, we go to item 13, discussion recommendation items to full council. We have item H, introduction to Lodgers Tax Board 2021 by Ms. Diana Huckes.
Good evening, Honorable Chair Benavides, members of the committee. I'm here before you this evening. I would like to officially introduce our Lodgers Tax Board for this fiscal year. With me this evening, I have Mr. Jose Renteria and Mr. David Salazar. We have another board member, Ms. Luana Hawk, who was unable to attend, and we do have 2 vacancies. But we would like to kick this off as a new start, so we will be reconvening in-person quarterly lodgers tax meeting board meetings, if you will. So we just wanted to take this opportunity to formally introduce.
Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
gentlemen, for being here with us. We welcome you.
And that we also have funds for the Lodgers Board to
We
work
do.
with.
money.
Yes,
We do,
finally.
right?
Madam Chair, if we may, and these gentlemen do not have to show up for the next council meeting, but if we can just state their names. I know there were some counselors on the governing body that wanted to know where we were at with the Lodgers Tax Board and who was on it, et cetera. So we can just inform the rest of the governing body next time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Counselor?
Nope. Okay, let's move to
Thank you.
item I, discussion of city investments presented by Director Jessica Ortiz. City manager couldn't be with us here tonight.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Finance Committee. Before you tonight, we have our guest, Mesro. And we have Mr. Eric Lujan that works with Mesro. We also have Mr. Pat Varela, who is the Santa Fe County Deputy Treasurer. And we have a presentation from Mesro. We can get that switched over. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Eric Lujan.
Good evening, Madam Chair, councilors. And I'd like to introduce, I think they're going to be on the Zoom, my colleagues in Chicago, Mr. Jim Kilbane and Mr. Peter Hagel. They're going to pop up here.
So we can
Good
see-
evening.
Oh, there they are. Can you see them there, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, councilors.
Little background with Mesro. As the former Chief Deputy Treasurer of Santa Fe County, serving under then Treasurer Patrick Varela, who joins us this evening, and I think he's on his way, is Rio Arriba County Deputy County Manager Leo Marquez, who we do business with as well, who referred us to your city manager, and he contacted me. Treasurer Varela is considered the guru of county investments. His current portfolio is outperforming the LGIP, which is the state treasurer's investment plan, and which you have funds in. And during his tenure, and myself as his chief deputy, we started doing business with Mesro in, I believe, 2015, 14. And at the time, we invested with $15 million of a core account that Santa Fe County had, which was sitting at about a $40 million fund. Treasurer Varela sold off as a gain to the county. No loss. We yielded quite a bit of money. We took that and we created what is now Santa Fe County's core account. And in that core account, it started with Mesro at a $15 million investment. We are now at a $30 million with a new 3-year contract with a $20 million additional funds that will be coming Mesro's way with the treasurer is able to adjust his investment policy. In 2017, Treasurer Varela and I came into Espanola, then Mayor Alice Lucero, City Manager Mark Trujillo, and together we structured your investment plan along with Jessica and Mark Trujillo at the time, and I believe that is still what is governing your investments, your investment policies today, and what we've looked at. Mesro has, and being that I am the boots on the ground in New Mexico, we currently are close to about $85 million of taxpayers' money that we manage from Santa Fe County, Rio Arriba, McKinley, and Doña Ana, with intentions from the PRA Retirement Board, as well as Bernalillo County and Sandoval County as well. When you look at Mesro and the presentation that they're going to give tonight, one of the biggest reasons that the counties do business with Mesro is during a pandemic, COVID, we were able to make money for our clients here in New Mexico at no losses, but with gains. Not great gains, but gains. I mean, when you have a portfolio such as Treasurer Varela and Treasurer Rodriguez, which are Class A counties, and the amount of money that they have with Santa Fe County, with Mesero, then your gains are larger. But, and Jim and Peter will allude to McKinley County, who started off with only 2 million, and now we're managing about $8 million of their monies. We make significant gains for that county, and as well as your home county, one of your home counties, because you're split in two counties, Santa Fe and Rio Arriba. Rio Arriba right now is projected to give us more money. They've already given their intentions to give us more money because they've seen the gains that we've given them during COVID. And that goes without saying, but it also reflects on the fact that we're doing a great job for our counties in New Mexico and for the citizens' taxpayers' dollars. And it's always a priority, Madam Chair, councilors, that the safety is the utmost importance of your investment dollars. These are taxpayers' dollars. And Mesero, we comply with state statute, we comply with your investment policies to allow us to invest your money safely and with a good return, and knowing that nothing detrimental or anything that happened in 2008 where monies were lost at a high rate, and as monies were lost as well now during COVID. And as we saw through the LJP and other investments, as we analyzed your portfolio, your gains were minimal. And we can show where we maximize and where we can get a better bang for your dollar. I'm going to go ahead and then at any point, I'll be calling instead of, we were going to bring his quarterly report from Santa Fe County, but instead of doing that, I brought Deputy Chair, former Treasurer Patrick Varela, to attest to his business dealings since 2014 with Mesero. And so if you have any questions to him as to how he's gotten started and what he's done and what he's experienced with Mesero, this is one reason. And Leo Marcus as well, if he shows up. But I'll turn it over now to Peter Hagel and Jim Cobain from Chicago. Gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Eric. Chairwoman, thank you. Councilors, thank you. And let me reiterate, we've been sitting on this call, listening to your terrific work, and I hope the taxpayers appreciate your volunteer work here, because it's great work that you do. By way of introduction, I've asked Peter Hagel to join me, and Peter is the most senior person on our investment team. We're going to make, as Eric Lujan has alluded to, we're going to make Chicago not feel that far away from you. We, due to Eric Lujan and particularly Treasurer at the time, Treasurer Varela, and now Deputy Treasurer Pat is well respected throughout the state. We've been able to really expand the footprint in New Mexico, and we've done it, as Eric alluded to, in a couple of ways. First of all, in a meaningful way, we're looking to have boots on the ground and get an office soon. We actually have an office in Albuquerque now, but we're looking potentially to bring other assets to New Mexico. And then secondarily, the safety of the assets that Peter and the team are entrusted with. So just a couple of blurbs, and folks, listen, you've already had a long evening. We're going to take really about 15 minutes to run through this and then open it up to questions, because we want obviously a dialogue. Just to let you know, as Eric alluded to, we are headquartered in Chicago. We'll be celebrating this October our 84th year in business. Certainly not the oldest firm, but pretty well established. And another important takeaway that I think you all should know is that this is an employee-owned firm. So we have about 484 employees, of which about 258 are fortunate to have stock in the company. And by the way, that's not awarded to us. We take out our checkbooks and we write a check and we invest in Mesero. And both Peter and I and most of Peter's team have been longtime investors in Mesero, and we work very hard to get a return on the investment. A couple other things I think that Madam Chairwoman, that I think the councils will appreciate is the fact that even though we manage under advisement about $206 billion, the fixed income assets, which if we're fortunate to gain your confidence and manage money for you all, we manage closer to about $6 billion on Peter's team. We have about 70 relationships divided by 3 portfolio managers, so it is not an overwhelming element at all. We have a very strong balance sheet of about 284 million in shareholder equity, and we never skate close to an edge. And I can promise this governing board that we're never going to be a headline risk to the city of Espanola, as we are not to Rio Arriba, McKinley, Doñana, and Santa Fe. We will never be a headline risk. You'll never pick up a Wall Street, or you'll never pick up whatever periodical you read and read unfavorable things about our firm. We manage it very conservatively. We have very strong investment teams in place. You'll hear specifically from Peter about how proud we are of the team that we have, that Peter really has compiled over his last 16 years. Again, so a couple of the important takeaways: 258 shareholders of the 484 employees. Yes, we do have offices in London, and we do have offices in Hong Kong, but the most important thing is all the investment decisions, all the factors of investment management are handled by Peter's team under the roof in Chicago, and I think that's very important. With that said, let me turn it over to Peter, and we can get specifically to what we offer, and then specifically the talent that we think we have. And I also want to have a personal thanks to former treasurer, now deputy treasurer, Pat Varela, for attending tonight. We have a good deal of respect for Pat and his investment acumen. And I certainly agree with my colleague's point that Pat is one of the more well-respected investors in the state. And we have, and we hope to continue to have a long relationship with Santa Fe. And so I want to thank Deputy Treasurer Varela for being in the audience tonight. Peter?
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. And I know it's been a long evening for you. So as Jim promised, I will only go on about an hour or two and let you know everything you ever wanted to learn. But I will just hit on some of the highlights, and we really are honored to have the opportunity to present to you this evening. As Jim mentioned, we have a team that has been together this always happens, right, on a Zoom call. So we have a team of clients, of portfolio managers that has been together now for many years. We came over to Mesro in 2005 as a team, and most of us have still remained. We've had a couple retirements along the way, but other than that, we've been a very consistent team. And the reason, as Jim alluded to, that we have 70 clients scattered across the United States is really, I think, on the presentation we have for you on page 5. And that is, we have a couple of key features that we do for our clients that we tailor to your particular needs. And as we've already started to allude to, we know that the bodies in New Mexico are governed by a set of regulations, but we've tailored what we do that we can hopefully provide for your bodies a very consistent portfolio approach that we think hopefully leads to good yields and a very strong performance for your city's money. So let me talk about a couple of things that we try to do for you. First off, everything we do is an investment grade bond. And of course, your regulations in particular do govern that and do lead us to stay with very high grade securities. Nonetheless, we do have opportunities to look across various sectors to try and glean where are the best opportunities. within the marketplace at any particular moment in time. So what you will see us do in a portfolio like yours over time is use different securities depending on what the market is providing. For instance, we like to use for some of the accounts, at times we find some good local New Mexico bonds, some municipal bonds. We find some of those have great yields. Always, of course, very high grade AA, AAA type paper. One of our key philosophies is we try not to be very aggressive in terms of trying to time where interest rates are going to go. Obviously, we are in an environment today of a very low yield. So it's particularly challenging, as you'll see on our page 7, excuse me. I've been in this business since 1979. Interest rates were considerably higher, as some of you probably will remember, back in 1979. But the challenges have been there all throughout. And one of the things we've learned is trying to guess where interest rates are going to go. Oftentimes, I've seen a lot of portfolios make mistakes. So we tailor it to be a very consistent portfolio. As Jim already alluded to, and Eric as well, we are very conservative. So we do focus on making sure that your city's money is as safe as possible. Obviously, we do have to take some risks in order to provide a return for you. But we do that with the attention paid to the liquidity and the safety overall of the portfolio. It becomes very helpful for us to get to know you and what your city's needs are so that we can tailor the portfolio to handle what the city's needs are and minimize the risk as best as we can. We strive to try and look across various maturities to see where also some of the best opportunities are. Good example in today's world, for instance, 5-year instruments typically yield about 1% or more, whereas 2 years might only yield 0.25% or more. So we're going to try to build a portfolio that can put the right kind of yield by combining the different elements together to get an overall yield that is far in excess, we think, of what you're getting, certainly, hopefully, in a money market fund or anything like that. We are used to fitting to clients' investment guidelines. We know also that most clients in New Mexico are limited in terms of being able to take gains and so forth. So we, again, will work with you and tailor the portfolio to make sure that what we buy we can hold to maturity for you as well. But if need be, and you ever do need the funds, we will, of course, have liquid items that we can sell for you. Now, let me talk about the team. And on page 6, this is, of course, an org chart, which one of the things that we pride ourselves in is everybody on that page is pretty senior. The youngest member of the team right now has been in the business close to 20 years already. So this has been a team that's been together for a long time, as Jim alluded to. They're handpicked by me. I actually hired all of them at some point along the way. So I'm very proud of the team we have here, and we're more than happy to work together. We meet on a weekly basis. Actually, we meet on a daily basis, but we formally meet to derive investment policies on a weekly basis. And this team, because we can work together for as long as we have, it's easily that we can convey our ideas back and forth. And of course, we're going to have disagreements. That's what makes markets. Sometimes some of us think things are going up, some things are going down, et cetera. But we've, by working together as long as we have, we strive to use that consistent portfolio approach. We put a lot of our resources into research. As you can see on the left half of page 6, outside of myself, everybody else on the portfolio management team is a research analyst. So we are very careful and diligent about the holdings that we put into a portfolio. We analyze them very carefully. We have a great deal of software. We have compliance software as well. So when you give us rules as to what you would like us to do with your holdings, everything gets checked in this compliance software before we buy it. It's checked even as we hold it for you in case anything has changed. So there's a great deal of care and great deal of research that goes into the holdings that we have. I'm going to keep it pretty short here for you. On page 7, we show when all the different members of our team entered the industry. As you can see, I'm all the way to the left of that graph there. So bonds were invented about a year before I started. I'm kidding. You know, we've all kind of been through a variety of cycles, and we've seen a lot of different market situations come and go. You know, and we show them here on the upper scale: recessions and market crashes and great booms and great busts, etc. So I'm very proud of the fact that the team we've assembled and has been through a lot of different situations in bond markets, whether interest rates were 15% like the day when I started or 0.15, which they are today. We do apply these consistent principles across it to make sure that your portfolio is handled in a very conservative fashion. And yet at the same time, we emphasize a good yield so that you get a good return for your citizens as well. So I'm going to stop there and let you ask questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hagel and Mr. Kilbane. One of the things I just want to mention to the listening public out there is that one of the reasons that when we originally met with Mr. Lujan and Deputy Treasurer Varela, Director Ortiz, and City Manager and myself, Mr. Lujan mentioned that this was a Chicago-based company. What I want the listening public to know is that one of the reasons that they're here tonight is because not only are they a Chicago-based company, but they do have an office in Albuquerque. And more importantly than that, we wanted somebody that was senior in working with municipalities. And that's key for us here at the City of Espanola. One of the discussions that we have had in other finance committee meetings and in council is that we need to look for investment opportunities. And being that this particular farm works with other municipalities, for us, that's a key. And I think that they would be open to discussions at any time with us based on conversations that we had. Deputy Treasurer Varela is always, for me, a step or two away for questions. And, I'm thankful to him for bringing Mr. Lujan to my attention and for asking us to sit and meet with them, although I think he had already spoken to Director Ortiz and City Manager Javier Martinez. So for me, I'm going to open it up to my fellow counselors and see what questions they have, because I know there's going to be a lot of them. And I believe that when we move this forward tonight, hopefully to council, I know that my fellow councils will have many questions as well. So Councilor Salazar Torres.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question is therefore, so it's only a discussion item, not an action item, I believe.
Correct, only for discussion tonight.
Yeah, and then secondly, what would be our next step to move forward?
I think our next step would just us taking a vote to move forward to council at that time. I think that we would have, again, Mr. Lujan indulge us with his presence. And again, Mr. Hagel and Mr. Cobain to present to the entire council. And I think council would probably have questions for Deputy Treasurer Varela in that they've done many investments with this company, as has Rio Arriba County. So we'd probably ask for Leo Marcus to be here as well to explain what some of those investments are and mainly what some of those returns are that would be beneficial to our community. I think it's something that we definitely need to do right now. Our return is really not where it needs to be based on the fact that most of our money is sitting in CDs, which currently today are earning $0 to no dollars for us. So I think that working with an investment firm that can assist us with making some type of additional funding is key. So I think the next step would be moving it to council so that we can actually take a vote. With that, we would probably ask for maybe some additional information from the company, not just on behalf of the company and what they stand for and who they are, but maybe just a little bit more information on maybe some additional sample investments that they think would work for us, those types of things. Mr. Lujan?
Madam Chair, councilors, and to be more specific, Councilor Salazar Torres, we discussed an exact investment amount with the city manager, Javier Martinez, and Cisco Ortiz and Ursula Atencio. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it's $2 million. $2 million. And that's basically what Rio Arriba started at, McKinley, The larger Class A counties such as Treasure Varela's and Treasure Rodriguez down in Doña Ana, they have a more significant portfolio, so they were able to establish. But in our meeting yesterday with staff and the city manager, we did come to the point that, we looked as Ryan Johnson and Jim Hagel and Peter analyzed your current portfolio. And you're very correct, Madam Chair, that most of your money's tied up in a lot of CDs, earning 0 to maybe 1 or 2 basis points. Your current portfolio with sitting at the LGIP 1.8 million is gaining 0 to 3 basis points. So they've kind of become stagnant during the COVID pandemic. And whereas you can look at the investments that we have with Rio Riba and with Santa Fe, and if Treasurer Barrera wants to chime in at any time, your basis points are sitting anywhere at 30 to 40 basis points, where your money is just so well more increased. And as I stated earlier, that you're getting a better bang for your dollar at that point. And having a professional portfolio manager is a little more advanced than what you're currently getting as far as your services. And just to go a little step further, and if you'll indulge me for a moment, we did discuss how we could set up how we report to you. Like Rio Riba, they like to have a monthly report, whereas Treasurer Varela is on a quarterly report, right? Every 4 months, he gets a report every 4 months, and the same with Doña Ana. But Rio Riba, we structure so they can get a report monthly, and so we geared it for them that way, and we discussed this, and it'll be at your discussion, Madam Chair, councilors, as to how you would like anything set up, or if this is your wish to bring us aboard, and that'd be a full council decision. But I just wanted to make a clarification, Madam Chair, councilors, as to what the amount of dollars that have been discussed and what will be invested at this point in time. That's your recommendation.
Thank you so much. That's conservative. I was thinking a little more money than that.
Well, hey,
but-
we'll take it.
But 2 million is good. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, that's at council's discretion, but I would recommend probably a little bit more than that, but.
If I can follow up, just sir,
Absolutely.
Councilor, Madam Chair. So I guess my question would be, just because I'm all for this, and not in any way, shape or form. I just want to make sure that we're following through it with the legal process, in the sense of if we say, okay, move this, it's just a discussion item, right? So we move this forward to just be discussed at without a vote, because it doesn't need to be a vote, move forward to full council just to be presented. But then what action item will then follow? Because there's got to be an action item in order for us to follow through with this, right? So I'm just making sure that we're following in sequence. I'm all for it being a discussion, but we don't need to vote on it. We can just say present it to the full
Absolutely.
governing body.
And I believe the process that would follow after that would be the city does have a process that I assume would need to be followed. I don't know if we have to do any sort type of RFP. That's something that Director Ortiz can probably answer for us. But I think at some point, it's a step that we desperately need to take, because as Mr. Lujan pointed out, our return on investment right now is 0 to none. Basically, it's minimal.
Right. And I just don't want to prolong this, right? I just want to make sure that we have some action going forward for our next meeting, that there's an action.
And just for a point of clarification, we would not have to go out to RFP, because this is considered a professional service.
Perfect. I like that. Questions, Councilor?
Yes, I had a question. So we have total of 6 million, correct? Because you said we have 2 million in CDs or is that 2 with the state?
So the 2 million is made up of the 1.8 million that we have with LGIP. That's
Okay.
the local government investment pool with the New Mexico State Treasurer's Office.
Okay.
And then we, to make up the difference, we would take out of our optimal savings account that's held with Century Bank.
Oh,
And
okay.
that would make the $2 million that we plan on investing.
What did I hear for? I thought I heard 4 million somewhere. I guess my mistake. But yeah, no, I was like, I just thought it was, we had something else tied up, and then there was 2 that you were putting towards this, but I thought there was something else. So my mistake.
I think it's because there's additional funds in the optimal savings, but
Right.
it would be up to council to decide if we wanted to move more funds.
Right.
Right.
But for
And
right,
so based on our discussion that we had yesterday with Ursula, city manager, myself, and Mr. Eric Lujan, we thought, we can start with the 1.8 in LGIP, get the additional 200K to make up the 2 million. And then at that point, we can, invest and see how we're going from there. And then
Right.
if we decide to up the amount, we can always up the amount.
and I know it could be trivial in the reporting, but you're dealing with long-term investors there compared to us of jumping into a more aggressive. So I feel like we're like Rio Arriba. We'd be more antsy of wanting to know how we're doing on a monthly basis
Yeah.
compared to a
Well, and
quarterly.
we already get our reports on a monthly basis,
So we get-
LGIP, our monthly bank statement. So, and I prefer to do that just so we can book what we need to do, the record keeping side on a monthly basis rather than a quarterly basis. So.
And what are some of the key investments that the company is investing in? What are some of the?
Sure. So some of the things we'll
Good
do.
question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, it's going to be a mix of different things depending on
Right.
what the conditions are. So, for instance, like what we'll hold for some of the other, entities that we've talked about here tonight. We have municipal bonds, we have CDs when those are attractive. Right now, they're not. We have federal agency bonds of various sorts and treasury bonds, typically. There are also some other governmental type agencies that every now and then we see. For instance, I'll give you a good example, Tennessee Valley Authority. You may be familiar with them. They electrified the whole Tennessee Valley. Those are treasury guaranteed bonds. They out yield normal treasuries for a lot of reasons, okay? But they're rare to come by. So that's my job, is to be alert. So when they're there, and I know that might be something that fits your portfolio, to buy that on your behalf. That's really my job. I think the way to think of it is we are a fiduciary. And so
Right.
that means we're working for you, right? So we're on the same team. And so I think it's very important to understand that our relationship and my relationship to you is as a fiduciary. So I am your representative in the market, basically.
Is there any private investments that we're in or that you're in, or is it all government bonds?
No, your regulations and your guidelines only stipulate that sort of thing. Were you to change your guidelines and expand it, and again, I think you're limited by government
Right.
state regulation, but we're certainly able to adapt to whatever changes you may have. So, for instance, Treasurer Varela can tell you about how he's wanting to go to some sovereign holdings as well, and here and there we've tried to find that when they were particularly attractive and put some of that into a portfolio, if that's something that you become comfortable with as a risk.
Okay, thank you.
And Counselor, there's something other to be said too. The CDs should ever those need to be liquidated, those are not the best circumstances to be in if you're in need of liquidity.
Right.
So, so Peter, even though Peter and team brings those up as an idea, those are somewhat last on the list because they're easy to get into and harder to get out of. But he talks about federal agencies. These are backed by the full faith and credit in most instances of the United States government. TVA is, Peter, that's a AAA security, is it not? The TVAs?
It's U.S. Treasury guaranteed.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
I mean, the point is, I think Jim brings up a good point. We want to diversify your holdings across a variety of things. So, like for instance, CDs, they're great instruments, obviously. If tomorrow you said, hey, we got to liquidate the whole portfolio, they're going to be a little hard to get out of. So we're going to limit maybe how many we put in there.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
we'll want to understand what your city's money looks like, what you use it for, and then we'll help you build a portfolio to address all your liquidity needs, all your safety needs, and that sort of thing.
Right. The CDs are only good as as good as the market, right?
Well,
So-
that, and then there's of course limits. Yeah, exactly. So
Absolutely.
right now, banks, obviously, as you can tell by your CD rates, banks don't need the money. So they're not bidding very aggressively.
As a former banker, yes.
Madam Chair, councilors, as it was when we structured your investment policy, right? We stipulated for state statute, that we are allowed to invest in, cannot invest in anything outside of in the United States. And we can go outside of it. And so everything is what we focus on that part of the US government.
Thank you for that.
And they do have a copy of the policy, so we know that those guidelines, those parameters, that we are allowed to invest.
Can you
That's
get
nice.
each of the committee members a copy of the investment policy? Can you email us a copy of the investment policy? Thank you. Any other questions? Nothing else?
Chair-
Thank you, Mr. Lujan and Mr. Hagel and Mr. Copain for your presentation tonight. We appreciate you and we hope to be able to do business in the future. Thank you so much.
Madam Chairwoman, thank you.
I appreciate the time.
Counselor, thank you very much. And we look forward to continued communication, and that will be done through my colleague, Eric Lujan. And again, thank you to Deputy Treasurer Varela for his time and efforts tonight. Thank you.
Right. Right. Thank you very much.
Chair Benavides, should we take a vote on it for formality purposes?
Yes, please, let's do.
Counselor Justin Salazar Torres,
Sure.
Chair Denise Benavides,
Absolutely.
and Counselor John Ricci.
Yes.
Motion passes to move to full council.
Yay, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Madam Chair, Council.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Valera. Thank you so much for being here as well. Any questions for Deputy Treasurer? No?
No, thank you.
Thank you so much. All righty, everybody, let's move on to item J, Financial Report, May 2021, discussion only, presented by Director Ortiz.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Finance Committee. I come before you tonight to present our May financial numbers. We are at the end of the month, so we will have our June financials here in the next week or two. So this is a little outdated looking at May because our numbers have changed and, you know, our revenues and expenditures with fiscal year end closing. It's been extremely busy getting all our stuff paid and making sure everything is in line. So looking at our general fund summary for May month end, we were at a negative variance of $91,592. And looking at last year's, we were at $106,464. So this is typical for the month of May.
Okay.
I even said that today. I'm going to say March, and I said it. So this is typical for the month of May because we tend to get our property taxes from Rio Arriba and Santa Fe County in the month of June. So FY21 revenues increased by a total of $346K from this time last year. Increases have resulted from increased GRT and property taxes primarily. GRT increased by $484,000. Rio Arriba property taxes increased by $29K, and Santa Fe property tax decreased by $11K from this time last year. FY21 expenditures increased by $331K. Increases have resulted in attorney costs, claims, judgments, and settlements, the E911 JPA costs, public safety costs for personnel and benefits, as well as an increase in our employee insurance costs. Our water fund is currently at $62,175 to the good. We had an increase in revenues of $87.8K from this time last year due to an increase in water sales and water connections. Our FY21 expenditures increased by $343,000 from this time last year. Results have increased from increased maintenance costs for buildings.
I'm sorry, I asked for screen share. I can't see that and there's nothing on it. I'm looking for screen share. If she can. Where's it?
Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, we can proceed.
Okay. So we're on the water fund summary. FY 21 expenditures have increased by 343K from this time last year. The results have increased from maintenance costs for buildings and structures, equipment, vehicles, grounds and roadways, as well as non-employee insurance costs. We also purchased 3 vehicles this past fiscal year for the water department, so that is reflective. In our wastewater department, we are currently sitting at 212,000 in the negative as of May month end. Revenues have slightly increased from this time last year by 26K, and FY 21 expenditures increased by 30K from this time last year. Increases in contractual services, equipment and machinery, and non-employee insurance costs. Do we have any questions on the summary page? No. Moving on. So looking on page 2, looking at our revenues, total revenues for the general fund is 10,086,111. In our utility water fund, total revenue is 2,779,188. And in our wastewater fund, 1,988,375. We are at 92% of the year elapsed. So you can see total up above under the revenue column, we are at 95% collected in the general fund. In the utility water, we are at about 91%. And in wastewater, we are at about 87%. And as I've mentioned, it's always been more challenging to collect on the wastewater side because unfortunately we can't do any type of disconnects or anything like that. So it's, it's a lot more challenging to collect the amounts that are due on
Madam
that
Chair, if I may.
service.
So I'm kind of a little bit confused. So when I get my bill, right, it comes as just one lump sum. I pay whatever I pay, right? And it's all tied in. So do people come and say, I'm just going to pay for my water? Or how is this, I'm confused, right? Their bill comes as one bill with.
Well, no, because some people only have sewer service. They may be hooked to a well, so
Perfect.
all
Thank you.
they do
Okay.
is they have the sewer service.
It makes, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to page 3 of our expenditures. So total expenditures in the general fund is 10,177,703. In our utility water fund, 2,717,013. And in our wastewater fund, 2,201,238. You can see that in the general fund, we are about 86% spent. In our utility water fund, we are tracking at 74% spent. And in our wastewater fund, we are tracking at 73% spent. Do we have any questions? No. Moving on to our gross receipts tax. So total receipts collected to date is 9,390,220. I'm sorry. May 21, 9,933,741. In May of 20, we collected 9,390,223. So you can see that's a year-to-date increase of 543,518. We do pay out, again, you'll see below the admin and the contracts. Those are fees that we have for our loans, the intercepts with NMFA and NMED. So those go over on a monthly basis to cover the debt service portion. So overall, we're tracking at about 6% over our GRT last year, which is it's a positive sign, and hopefully it continues to grow that way. Now, it's kind of, we don't know what's going to happen with everything that's opening up July 1st, even though, the state is opening up, there's still going to be restrictions in place. A lot of places don't have staff to, to service. And so it's going to be challenging. But, you know, I am optimistic and hopefully it continues on the right path.
And real quick, we're 2 months behind. The numbers are for May or March numbers. Is that correct?
Yes, so this is for business activity in March, reported in April and distributed in May. Yes. So it was, you know, it was a good amount, 1,023,204 that we collected for the month of March, for activity in the month of March. So that's
Right.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Page 5 is looking again at our revenues by source. You can see that our taxes, our state and local taxes, are our biggest revenue source. So that's why it's important to continue to shop local. And our expenditures, public safety, followed by administrative staff at 35%. So total year-to-date revenues, 10,086,111. And year-to-date expenditures of 10,177,640. I did run the numbers today, just kind of seeing, you know, as things are coming in, as we're processing, we were still looking at about 350K to the good. We have one more payroll that needs to post. So that'll take up about another 225,000 with everything loaded, all benefits loaded. And then we did pass the resolution tonight to move the transfer in the GRT fund. So what happens with that is we collect this money and it goes into a separate fund, Fund 503. Well, we've exceeded our anticipated collection by 100 and some plus dollars that I had on that bar. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to transfer that back into the general fund, because that money does come into the general fund. It was based on what we had budgeted, but because we collected more than what was budgeted, we want to be sure to capture that back in. So that money will go back in to help the bottom line balance. So I'm looking at, you know, anywhere from like 100 to 150K in the good at year end. And last page again is just overall revenues and expenditures. You can see as of May month end, we were 91K in the negative. And then the following pages are simply for your viewing. You can see where we were at, you know, this time versus this time last year, breaks it down by the different categories in our revenues and our expenditures by department. And I stand for any questions.
I have just, how does it work with June's revenue, since it doesn't get expedited, so we see it in August, is that correct?
That is correct. So really on a fiscal year, we run April to April for business activity.
I have no other question.
Any questions? No? Thank you, Ms. Jess, so much.
Thank you. Thank everyone for being here. Thank you, Richard.
Yes. Next meeting, Ms. Ursula, can you give us a date, please?
Next meeting will be our finance board, and that's going to be combined with our city council meeting on the 13th. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Next, we are at adjournment, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
So Madam Chair, I
a
hate to be
great
that
night.
one guy, but just so we're in compliance here, we voted on, but we didn't, there wasn't a motion made.
Okay,
So we just took a vote, but there was no motion made on the discussion item.
to move to full
To full council,
council
yeah.
for, you're correct.
There was
Okay.
no motion made. So I just want to make sure and we don't need it. I just want to make sure we voted for, you know,
Right.
How are we able to move?
it's just a discussion item. So you can just say, we want them, that's like, guess, business with visitors, right? You just tell them, hey, go present to full council. That's all you need. That's why I'm stating we voted for something that we didn't even make a motion on. So just trying to make sure that I didn't say I wanted to have a vote. No, I said, no, we don't need a vote.
Right. So for clarification, I think we just
Just send it
mentioned that,
forward.
yeah, that we needed to vote to move that item to full council because it's just a discussion item. Right? Okay, so we can go back and do that. Okay. Right, because we definitely want to move that to full council. All righty. He can already see the return on investment. Great, thank you, guys. Right. No, I think it's a great company, you guys, based on the conversations that I've had with, oops, with Treasurer Varela. You too. I will. Let me just put my jumpsuit.